Hello everybody, 6th and 7th hour. As you maybe can tell, today we're talking about birds. So instead of me waving at you, we have some little bird friends waving at you for today's section. So you're going to need to turn to your bird notes. Sorry I don't have a page number for you, but that's what a table of contents is for. And hopefully there should be a date spot. Today is the 20th. So let's get started. This, by the way, what you are looking at here, is a picture of a great gray. All right, classification. Hopefully we all know what kingdom we're talking about. That would be kingdom Animalia. As far as phylum, remember these are things with backbones and spinal cords. So this is Chordata. And obviously our class, if you remember this from before, is aves. So if you think aviation or aviator, you'll know where that word comes from. So aves, A-V-E-S. So that's our classification. Kingdom, Animalia, phylum, Chordata, class, aves. Some general characteristics of all birds. They all have feathers. Yes, even the ones that don't look like they have feathers, like penguins, those are feathers. Feathers are obviously most often used for flight, but there are, of course, exceptions to that rule, like ostriches. More importantly, feathers are used for insulation, and we actually borrow that trait as well. If you have a down comforter or maybe a down jacket, you know what I'm talking about, because that down is actually the feathers from different species, and we kind of steal that little trick away from the birds. All birds have beaks. Beaks are obviously a tool used for eating, and what they eat has a very strong connection to what their beak is shaped like. If you have a hooked beak, like a bird of prey from our video yesterday, chances are you're going to use that beak to rip and tear your food. If you have a more flat beak, like this one right here, you're probably more used for straining objects out of the water. So depending on what your beak shape is, has a very direct connection to what you eat. All birds have wings. They are modified limbs. So again, depending on what we're talking about, some birds obviously don't fly, but penguin, for example, would use their modified limbs or their wings to help them swim in the water. And wings vary a lot in size and shape. If you think of a hummingbird, very small, tiny wings, versus an eagle or a hawk with very wide, broad wings. So they're very different as far as that's concerned. All right, a sternum bone is something unique to birds, at least the shape of it. Sometimes it's also called the keel bone. So if you've ever gone sailing, you know what a keel is on a boat, perhaps. The sternum bone is the place where the two flight muscles attach. So on you guys, your sternum, you can actually feel it. If you feel kind of just under in the middle of your chest, there's a flat part, and then all of a sudden about halfway down it disappears because that's where the bottom of your ribs attach. That is your sternum, okay? And it's the same thing. It's where your pectoral muscles attached. But in birds, obviously, this is very important for most of them that fly. On flightless birds, however, this bone is very flat, just like ours, because they don't have a need for such a ginormous sternum bone. So in most birds, this is what we're looking at, this very big bone that actually sticks out of the bird. So if you have a chicken or a turkey at home, you can do a little dinner dissection and see this bone. On flightless birds, however, this is going to be flat, but you can see this whole big surface right here is where one muscle attaches, and that would be, if you eat chicken, the breastbone, or the breast of a chicken. So that's the flight muscle that you're actually eating on one side, and then there would be a matching one on the other side. So you can see this is a very large bone. So for birds that fly, they need a spot for that muscle to attach, and they need a big spot, because if you're going to fly, obviously that bone is going to be under a lot of stress. And their heart, they have a 4-chambered heart, just like humans. And remember, the more chambers, that means you can have a more efficient oxygen intake, unlike our amphibian friends, which remember only had 3. So just like in us, there are 2 chambers on the top, and 2 chambers on the bottom. And yes, even though this picture is blue, please understand that blood is not blue. It is never blue. I don't know why people think that it is. It has nothing to do with being exposed to the oxygen and it turns red. Just believe me, blood is not blue. Okay? Thanks. All right, digestion. Let's talk about similarities and differences. Birds have an esophagus. Hopefully that sounds familiar because we've talked about worms have an esophagus, and we obviously have an esophagus. Birds have a crop, and that should sound familiar because we talked about crops when we were talking about worms. Birds have a gizzard. Again, sounds similar because worms have gizzards. They have an intestine. We talked about intestines in worms and in frogs and in clams. And they have a cloaca. Our amphibians, frogs, also had a cloaca for the removal of waste. So we've got some similarities between us, we've got some similarities between worms, and we've got some similarities between frogs. So hopefully you'll see the connection between all of those parts. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit. So come back to the birds while I very stealthily switch. So ignore the man behind the screen, if this were the Wizard of Oz. All right, hang on. There we go. Back. So hopefully you can see this is just some other fun bird stuff. I kind of have a thing for birds. You may not have known that, but I do. So this is one of my professor's research owls. His name is Merlin. This is Merlin when he was a baby. I think Merlin looks like an Ewok. And Merlin was quite nice. But he was very cute when he was a little one. Then we have Olivia, which was my friend Sarah's research owl. Apparently, she was a bit of a stinker. I never met Olivia, the owl, but she liked to bite, apparently. And then this is a burrowing owl. Notice it has very different legs. These guys actually don't roost in trees. They actually bury themselves in the ground in tunnels, and they're very good runners, hence the very strange legs. But this was a rehab owl that another one of my friends was working with, so it had an injury, and she was taking care of it for a while. So other fun bird stuffs. Believe it or not, this is the smallest falcon in Wisconsin, the kestrel. Probably only about, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 inches tall. If you get really good at birding, you can actually tell what a bird is just by looking at the outline. So you can see differences between wing shape and tail shape, and you can get really good at that. This one happens to be my favorite owl. This is a barred owl, B-A-R-R-E-D, because of the bars that run horizontally across its chest, and then the vertical bars that go across its midsection, with chocolate brown eyes and a nice yellow beak. And I think my speakers are on. Where's the volume? Hang on. Oh. No, volume. There we go. Okay. We gotta turn the volume up. There we go. Ooh. There we go. I just think they sound funny. So that's why I like them. All right, so this is the Galapagos Island. I had the opportunity to visit a couple years ago, but we're off the coast of Ecuador. So just to give you a little geographical benchmark, and Ecuador means equator, so we are just off the equator. This is a waved albatross. They are notoriously known for their beautiful flight. However, their landings are horrible. And here's a nesting pair. They actually had a nest, and you can't see the eggs, but they're keeping watch. This is the feet of a blue-footed booby, and yes, they really are blue. Okay, there's the whole thing. Blue-footed booby. These are called frigate birds. These are males. This giant air sac puffs up and they poof it out to attract a female to start the mating process. So these are all males. This one, however, isn't mature enough yet. It hasn't gotten its big red poof yet, so it's a giant air sac. Here's another kind of booby. This one is called the Nazca booby, or the masked booby, because if you look around its eyes, it has kind of like a Lone Ranger mask on. So they call it a Nazca or masked booby. Believe it or not, yes, there are penguins in the Galapagos. This is one. They are rather small compared to probably what you've seen at the zoo. But yes, there are penguins on the equator, as well as flamingos. So here's a couple of flamingos in one of the ponds. And there's me with a giant lava rock. So, all right, that's all I got for you as far as birds. I will be back tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Bye. Oh, wait. Bye.